Intelligent talk that's sure to raise the IQ. Here's Guy Wehman, Ben Brunson, and Frank Vernuccio inside the news.
Welcome back to our next segment of Inside the News. Thank you so much for joining us. And hey, Frank, what's going on? What state are you in this month?
The degraded state of New York.
Or this week, it's the degraded state. We always ask him, and it's always a D state. It's the letter of the alphabet. He hasn't quite gone in the F for failing. But okay, here, Ben, the international segment, and I first put up Sweden. Did they get it wrong to try and do herd immunity? They took the hit in March and April, but now they seem to be coming out. But then you said, guess who? Go.
Well, last week's show, we talked about the World Health Organization coming out officially with their analysis that 10% of the world's population has been infected, despite the official numbers, which are somewhere around 40 million. They think the actual numbers are around 750 million. And that changes the entire complexion of this disease because it changes the case fatality rate and lowers it dramatically into essentially the same as the normal flu. Well, the World Health Organization, which was despicable early this year because they were in the tank for China, they were essentially owned by China, and I still think the director needs to, at a minimum, be relieved of his job, let's put it that way. They came out this week and said, oh, by the way, lockdowns are a bad idea and the wrong policy. So they have officially come around to saying lockdowns are not the thing to do. It should be a weapon of last resort. And they cited science and economics, amazingly, and pointed out that tens of millions of people have been thrown into poverty around the world. The cost to the global economy and humanity of these lockdowns have been horrendous upon the global population.
Has he told Joe Biden this? Because I think that if he's elected, he's going to put lockdowns on everybody with masks.
Well, Biden seems to be going that way because of the entire political narrative that this has become in this country. The lockdowns being led by Democratic governors trying to ensure that Trump is out of office. It's all going to backfire on them, frankly.
Oh, yeah. Everybody. I had a friend come down here to see me here in Florida from a state in the Midwest, and we went out to a restaurant, by the water. He goes, wow, everything seems a lot more normal here with DeSantis opening things up. He says, this is enjoyable. And Frank, it's a far cry from your degraded state up there in New York.
It is, and of course, portions of New York are being locked down again. But we have to extend the logic that Democrat governors are using by the same criteria. And as Ben said, the coronavirus is now becoming more similar to just the normal flu. If you go by that criteria, we would have to lock up the entire planet, at least in the northern hemisphere, just about from January to June of each year. If we use the same logic, if we use the same criteria, no cars should be on the highways because the 50,000 or so deaths and injuries that we get each year would be sufficient under these criteria to say it is unsafe to go out of your house and get into your car. We have to understand that there is always risk involved. Yes, one life lost is too much and all that good stuff we could say, but the reality of it is you can't close down the entire planet. And as has been pointed out under numerous occasions, the results from depression, from economic disaster are presenting a challenge as severe as the infection rate from the coronavirus itself. Further, there is no indication that these lockdowns have eliminated the disease at all. It is now going to be another part of the normal, I believe it's 1,200 strains of the flu that are out there, and several come back each and every year. The system of lockdowns has not worked. It's time to move on and do something better.
I had the chuckle, Frank, when you used your car analogy and all of the accidents and locking people up, because you just described the 4 to 5 months of seasonals visiting Florida. Right, Ben? It's nuts.
Or sunstroke victims at Disney World.
Go, Ben.
Well, look, we really have to open the economy up. There's no excuse left. There are governors like Ron DeSantis in Florida who have gotten it right, but the impact still lingers. People aren't traveling yet. So service industries are hurt, and the lingering impact of this fear mongering that has been the hallmark of the mainstream media that goes on every day. I watch CNBC a lot, and it is shocking how much of their airtime is spent by young left-leaning people and announcers who are trying to sow fear among the population in general and the listeners of CNBC. And that they're not nearly as bad as CNN and MSNBC. We have overreacted. It made sense back in March because we thought the science suggested this was a real killer, that the death toll could be as high as 5%. I was on board with the lockdown, but we know better now. And unfortunately, the left has become the party of ignoring and denying the science on this. The science is overwhelming. When the World Health Organization will admit this, hardly a right-thinking organization, okay? And when they admit that lockdowns are completely wrong, Sweden got it right, that's the way we need to go. There should not be any hesitation anywhere to go forward.
Frank, what are you hearing from some of your friends up there about what's going on in Europe about the COVID? Britain took it hard. Germany really took it hard. And we opened up with Sweden, talking about them, that they're now on herd immunity. It's not as bad. But does Europe seem to be opening up a little bit?
No. The latest numbers that came from some parts of Central Europe and Southern Europe, like Italy, for example, were that they had more infections, the highest daily rate of infections since this whole thing began. But when you read further into the story, it turns out that they've done more testing than they've ever done before. So the more you test, the more you're going to find out. But even there, the death rate is very small. So now if we go along with the statistics that say there are more people being affected, but very few people are getting seriously ill from it, it is just another flu.
That's Frank Vernuccio. You can find him at usagovpolicy.com. He's with the American Analysis of News and Media. Ben Brunson, he's the author of the Falstaff, Enigma, and Esther, Sling. You can find more about Ben at benbrunson.com, and amazon.com is where you can find his books. This is Inside the News. Wehman and Brunson and Vernuccio. We're going to take a time out. On the other side, the election trail segment. Obama is coming back. Stay tuned.
You're listening to Wehman, Brunson, and Vernuccio. Inside the News.